there was a camp that was on the side of Floyd from an organizational perspective, but it seems there was a power struggle between Duduzile and Floyd. Yes, Kumalo came to Jacob Zuma to say, you need to discipline the child, just like any father, but it seems Zuma took offense to that, and therefore that created the perception that everything has to do as Duduzile calls, because he's the daughter of Jacob Zuma. That entitlement was there from the beginning. The fault was that Jacob Zuma didn't call it out as an honest father and as an honest leader. He is the one that gave the platform for his daughter to undermine people. I mean, even if we look at the 2 a.m. tweets that Duduzile made in regards to Floyd, he did not create it on that intention, but he is exploiting tribe, because this further goes back to In Exile, where the man was used to be known to say that, look, you will never lead the ANC if you're not Zulu, or at the least if you're not Nguni. But he was brought in with the likes of Floyd and even Colleen to kind of remove that stigma of tribalism.
Dynamics that are happening and taking shape in the MK party, starting with the time Floyd Shivambu left the MK party, and he had so many problems within the MK itself. One of them being the now and then disturbance that is caused by the two, Nhlamulo and Duduzile Zuma. What was really happening around that time to actually force Floyd Shivambu out of the party? Was it just the two, or there were other things that really influenced his departure from MK?
Look, I mean, I don't think there could be a time where we clearly can know 100% as to what happened, because it seemed there were two camps. There was a camp that was on the side of Floyd from an organizational perspective, and there was a camp who were on the side of the bureau of the party, if I can put it like that. But it seems there was a power struggle between Duduzile and Floyd, in the sense to say Duduzile is the daughter of Jacob Zuma, and Floyd is the Secretary General, whom both could be or were competing or to be close next to Jacob Zuma. That seems to be the essence on who. So, in my opinion, that's where the crunch of the matter is. But that situation on its own, I will never blame it on Floyd or Duduzile, in my opinion. I will blame it on Jacob Zuma. Why? When we look at the founder of MK who registered the party, that guy is it Bongani, what is his that
Bongani Kumalo.
Yes, Kumalo came to Jacob Zuma to say, you need to discipline the child, just like any father, but it seems Zuma took offense to that. And that is what led the situation to come. So Zuma created a situation where the daughter would do whatever they want, as much as they pleased, in an unchecked manner. And therefore, that created the perception that everything has to do as Duduzile calls, because he's the daughter of Jacob Zuma. That entitlement was there from the beginning. The fault was that Jacob Zuma didn't call it out as an honest father and as an honest leader. He is the one that gave the platform for his daughter to undermine people. I mean, even if we look at the 2 a.m. tweets that Duduzile made in regards to Floyd, because my understanding comes to say Floyd was trying to instill organizational discipline, organizational tradition, and it kind of hampered or stood or stamped on the feet of Duduzile Zuma in that way. And there was the notion that they have a free reign within the Mkhondweni party. So when Floyd comes in to instill that organizational discipline, he trampled on the feet of those two people who deemed themselves to be untouchable, and they deemed themselves to the president or the father of Duduzile did not call them to order. So the person to blame actually to this is Jacob Zuma himself. He has created an environment where his party is quite unstable.
But is it just something that Zuma is famously known for? Because even in the ANC, as somebody who strive or excel in divisions, causing divisions, in the ANC, there were divisions before you could ascend into the party presidency. And up the ANC to join or to create his Busisiwe Mkhwebane, still within the same MK party.
Yeah, no, look, you know what? When you go back to the Jacob Zuma presidency, I mean, you remember there was a time, it was even effectively coined by the economic freedom fighters in parliament. They used to refer to Jacob Zuma as Ubaba Kaduduzane.
Yes.
That alone shows that even when Zuma was the president, his children had this kind of entitlement to South Africa that they could do anything. Leadership, a weak element. So when it comes to children, it seems Jacob Zuma is weak, and he lets them to cloud his political legitimacy. But to go back to Jacob Zuma being a very divisive figure, that is a character that the man has always had since back in the days of Mkhonto Sizwe. The man was head of intelligence. I mean, those who follow the narratives of Mkhonto Sizwe back in the trenches, they would say that, look, Jacob Zuma was more of a divisive figure in the sense that he could even at times use tribe to be divisive. You know, when one you kind of antagonism. Chris Hani at the time was the chief of staff, and he would, because he was the head of intelligence. But Jacob Zuma would go and change the detail of that mission without speaking to Chris Hani, and that alone had created some kind of differences between the differences that made relationship, if I can put it like this. I'm not trying to paint the picture. Once is what he will get, and if he does not get it, he's going to cause a storm.
But then now fast forward, because Floyd left, and I don't remember him, the same Jacob Zuma, coming forward to defend Floyd Shivambu, and again Papa Penny left. Even today we still don't know. He hasn't really fully said it out as to why he left, but I am thinking he just didn't want to come out fully to say whatever that is happening, and a lot of people are saying to be a Zulu political party, where if you are not from KwaZulu-Natal, things are going to be hard for you. Like if you have to advance the ranks or stay in the party, things are going to be hard. You are already disadvantaged.
Yeah, no, look, when you throw in the Papa Penny spanner into the work, it kind of complicates, but even paints a clearer picture. And I'll demonstrate for you.
Okay.
At its founding, the MK, its legitimacy, or that delegitimized it, was the issue of tribe or ethnocentric nationalism. In the sense that the MK party was created on the basis of Zuma old man, for calling it out. I don't think he created that party to create a tribal deviation. No. But consequentially, because his biggest supporter base own tribe documents came out, just like said earlier on, when Duduzile went out of line, you didn't see a Jacob Zuma that attempted to bring back her daughter in line. The same with the MK. When these tribal elements came out, you didn't see a Nhlamulo who stood on a public platform and called it out as much as he calls out Cyril Ramaphosa. So clearly you can see that Jacob Zuma is exploiting tribe for his political ends. He did not create it on that intention, but he is exploiting tribe, because this further goes back to In Exile, where the man was used to be known to say that, look, you will never lead the ANC if you're not Zulu, or at the least if you're not Nguni. A lot of people are not brave to say it out loud, but there are some who say it, to say that man by nature he's a tribalist. Okay, it's just that notion of him being an extreme tribalist is starting to take root now. Even when he was president, I don't think he ruled the country in a tribalistic manner. I'm not going to paint him as such, but when tribalism elements came out at his benefit, he did not call them out. That's what delegitimized him. And when you look at the issue of Papa Penny was brought in with the likes of Floyd and even Colleen to kind of remove that stigma of tribalism. Get my point? But importantly, even Papa Penny in Mkondo Wesizwe, Papa Penny not an agent, and we saw he would enter the party in parliament. But I don't want to as a legitimizing factor, because there are people who are educated in parliament, but they are very stupid. Let's be fair. And I'm not going to take that away from Papa Penny. What I liked about Papa Penny in the MK is that he was representing a constituency of people who are in rural areas from non-Nguni communities. Get my point? No one in parliament would table the issues that affect locals in Guyana or Venda or even in the Northwest. But Papa Penny stood to represent that constituency. So him to lead the MK the way he did, because the MK would view him as an asset, as a pop asset that kind of enhances the pop culture or the culture of South Africa. Papa Penny left, and there wasn't that extension, the leaders extending hand to Papa Penny to say, don't leave. What is the matter? We can sort it out amicably. That alone paints a bad picture, because here comes Floyd. He creates his own party that is seemingly you can say is affiliating towards the Tsonga or Shangani communities, but that is not the same. But you could say that was the case.
In the ANC, or is it still going to be dominated by the ANC, as we've seen the ANC winning Limpopo, with being poisoned, to now go and start taking some of the constituency that is of Tsonga tribe that was now voting for the ANC.
There must have been an element, but I don't want to ground it to that alone.
Yes.
Get my point. Papa Penny moving to that party, for me, signal to say he felt more at home, because this is a party whose leader comes from their same tribal background. But the problem with Floyd to capture the Tsonga community in Limpopo or in South Africa is a problem that the opposition faces as a whole. Okay, because for Papa Penny to capture that, he needs to for Floyd to capture the Tsonga communities as a whole, he needs to present the Africa Maibuye Party as a viable and coherent alternative to the current ruling party, the ANC. And this is the big problem of the opposition, positioning themselves as an alternative. If Floyd is really going to position his party as an alternative based on the Tsonga identity, it's not going to go far. It's not going to go far, because the bigger problem of the opposition is presenting themselves as a viable alternative. One thing they have failed to present themselves as viable alternatives to the ANC. So this is the wider problem that the opposition is facing, and applies to Floyd, and it even applies to the MK. They are all failing.
She's still facing some charges, but now we see her making a transition from the ANC to the MK party. What impact does that have?
I must be honest, the issue of Zandile Gumede, I was quite surprised yesterday when the news broke, but my immediate or near immediate reaction was that this is a move that's come late. I anticipated it to happen much earlier than it did.
Same here.
Because clearly, when you look at the demographic, she's Zulu. She's coming from KZN, and not only just KZN, she was coming from, and that was the eThekwini region. And the eThekwini region has formed to be the basis of the MK party. So many of the people that Zandile Gumede was with in the ANC and left her to form the MK party, I'd expected her to live with them at first. So this move comes later than expected, if I must be honest. But secondly, it proves what that the M is a home for people who decide who has been associated with scandal, so as together. So it's a wonderful home. It's a perfect home for someone like Zandile Gumede. You're going to be welcomed by people who have corruption cases and corruption matters hanging over their heads. So it's a match made in heaven, but it affects in the long term the legitimacy of the Mkhonto party. You cannot tell me that everyone who's in the MK has corruption cases. These corruption cases are stemming simply because
thinking about now when we're going to the next local elections, because for her to have been the mayor, she probably had a certain constituency that was entrusting her with responsibility to lead the ANC in the Durban region, or in the what do they call it? That municipality. What do they call it? eThekwini, yes, eThekwini municipality. So now, if she is now going to join the MK, what about the subtract ever influence that she was having in the region? She's now
definitely. Your question is the premise of its coming local elections. The MK party is going to take the bulk. EFF and ANC that will be fighting for the scrambles that are left by the MK party. But her going into the MK party from a very local position solidifies the position that the MK party will have from a local perspective, in the sense to say the MK party is going to govern eThekwini outright. You expect an outright majority in eThekwini. expect an outright majority in the district of Ngungundlovu, that's Pietermaritzburg. Expect a big outright majority in the Big Five region, that's the rural side of KZN, your Jozini, Mhlaba, and all of that. But expect the MK party to win majority of the wards. The biggest challenge to the MK party, and this is where I like politics, the biggest challenge to the MK party will be the IFP. And MK party is fighting with the party that has brand legitimacy. Brand legitimacy to say it prioritizes the interest of Zulu people. It's a Zulu party. It's a political party.
Yeah. It's more like the FF plus. It's more like the FF plus when it comes to the Afrikaner constituency.
Yes, but what is more interesting is that the IFP party, it's a party that's being used to be marginalized by a newcomer on the block that steals votes from them. First of all, remember when the ANC was unbanned and Mandela was released from prison?
Yes.
When 1994 elections came, the ANC marginalized the IFP. You get my point?
That's true.
But what happened to the IFP? What happened to the IFP? They survived that. So voters of the IFP who originally went and voted for the IFP, you find them in the second elections coming back to vote for the IFP. That second phenomenon happened later on when there was a split in the IFP with the National Freedom Party by Zandile. Who's that?
Was it not Zandile who made Magwazam CBS?
Magwazam CBS. She stole votes from the IFP. It marginalized the IFP. But in the next election cycle, those voters, they went back to their original IFP party. The third time happened in the ANC again when Jacob Zuma became president of the ANC in the country. Do you know why?
Yes.
Jacob Zuma at that moment became the highest or the most senior Zulu politician, meaning Jacob Zuma, by being president,
Yes.
And that moment, that 2009 moment, stole a lot of votes from the IFP, where Zulu people are saying, we have a Zulu person who's poised to be the most senior political figure in the country. We need to vote for that person.
And also,
but what happened?
Yeah.
Wait. Let me finish. But what happened afterwards? Those people who voted Zuma on the basis of him being Zulu, they went back for the IFP. So this time the IFP knows, because of the MK parties there, they are going to lose votes, but they're not worried because they know in the next election cycle they will win back those votes. But the MK right now, they can IFP, they can avoid that situation to say, the MK is a party full of crooks. It has people having corruption cases hanging over their heads. In that way, they can mitigate the loss that is coming to us. Then they are going to get a loss, but now they have tools that they can use to mitigate that loss.
Yeah,
that is what is going in coming local election government, to say IFP will accept that MK is going to steal their turf, but they have ammunition to fight back. Why? MK is a party full of crooks. It has no credibility. And tell me who in IFP that you know right now he's having a scandal. Name me one person that you know in IFP.
No one, because majority of them are not in power, and there are people who are moving from another big party where you can say they were convicted or they were accused of some corruption as well. But and then also, again, now
look at one more. Sorry, look at one more factor. The leader or the leader of the MK party, of IFP, that is an element that no, it's no longer Mangosuthu. It was the son of Mangosuthu, and I understand he has chosen a successor to be the prime minister of the Zulu king. That is an element that the MK party doesn't have. So the illegitimacy of the MK and the prime minister position, those are the ammunition that the IFP has. It will all depend on how the IFP uses that ammunition to delegitimize the MK party.